from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
At Corbett High School outside Portland, Oregon, Friday comes early. Students here only go to school Monday through Thursday. With Fridays always free for sports, extracurriculars, and appointments, administrators say there are fewer interruptions and better attendance the rest of the week. Nationwide, about 560 districts in 25 states have 4-day weeks. Some critics worry not enough is known about the impact on students, and there's still not much research on how a 4-day week affects academics.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, a 4-day school week. We have two guests joining us via Zoom today. Rocky Robbins, secondary principal and activities director of Minnetonka Public Schools, will be here a bit later. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome Jeffrey Messersmith. Jeffrey is the superintendent of Wynot Public Schools. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Let's go ahead and start by having you tell us, how does a 4-day school week work?
Well, in our case, we kind of run what we call a modified 4-day week. We go to school 39 weeks in a school year. Typically, I think a traditional school year is usually around 36 weeks. And so when I say modified, we have probably 22 of the 39 weeks are 3 or 4-day weeks, depending on holidays in there as well. We typically try to have Mondays off instead of Fridays because we feel like students will benefit by getting appointments in and whatnot through that. Likewise, our activity schedule then will still roll into those Fridays, but we seem to get much better attendance. And so in our case, a 4-day week is typically Tuesday through Friday. Right now it's state girls and boys basketball time of the year, and so we usually generate then that 4-day week on Fridays where we won't go to school because, and in our case, we've been very fortunate. We've been in the state tournament many times, and so this year our girls and boys are in it. So those Fridays work out well for us because we're going to be in Lincoln.
Okay, when was the concept of a 4-day school week introduced, Jeff, and why?
Well, the overall concept, I mean, it's rather probably about 50 years or more old. I think the real issues were, one, making sure that you had academic presence. You wanted to have better student attendance, and therefore you could also get more in-service time with your teachers, allow them to develop their teaching strategies and become more efficient at that. But I think the biggest issue was that a 4-day week saved money. Schools aren't running buses as often. There's 1 day less of energy lighting the school and heating the school. And you were able to, yes, you might extend your day on the other days, but for the most part, because you've saved a day in transportation and you're saving a day in energy costs, you were able to decrease costs and increase classroom efficiency. I mean, like in our case, we probably saved close to, I think it's $80,000 a year running a 4-day school year or 4-day week.
Wow, okay, so to date, how many states, and we're going to put up a graphic for our viewers, how many states across the country are utilizing this concept, Jeff?
Well, I know that 25 will have at least one school district in there, and Nebraska has a few. I know there's some in South Dakota. Obviously, you can look at the graphic there. It's prevalent, obviously in the western part of the nation, and a lot of times, you look at weather conditions, you can look at a lot of different things, but probably one of the biggest or most important pieces of it is that I think it benefits the kids. I think it helps energize them. Uh, the faculty seems to be more energized. They come off a 3-day weekend. Not every day off for the faculty is a work day or an in-service day. They also benefit from those 3-day weekends as well.
Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. I want to, first of all, let our viewers know a little bit about the village of Wynot. So we're going to drill down to the district in just a few minutes. But, for those viewers who've not been to Wynot, we're going to put up a map. Tell us about the village of Wynot.
Wynot is the northeast part of Nebraska. We're probably 12 or 13 miles from Yankton, South Dakota. We're roughly 45 minutes from Sioux City, Iowa. We're an hour away from Norfolk, Nebraska. Population of about 200 people, and predominantly farming community. We do have some industry around here, but bedroom community to those industries. Locally, we have had kind of a boom lately, where we've had a housing boom where quite a few new houses are being built. A lot of alumni are moving back to send their kids here. But overall, it's predominantly an agricultural community with multiple dairies around here and farming opportunities.
So talk a little bit about this student population. You've gone into benefits a bit, but I think for us to really, understand, tell us about those students you're serving.
Oh, I think, one, my kids, they come from the surrounding area, so in our case, we bring in about 50 option enrollment kids from neighboring districts. Partly because of our 4-day week, I believe, and partly because of our academic and extracurricular successes. The students, we have 190 students this year, and that's PK-12. And in that, we offer a wide range of subjects for them. I think the neat thing about our kids is that we're very faith-driven. We're a public school, but we have a very faithful community, very strong Christian community here. And in that brings a different work ethic. I think our kids, because they live on farms and dairies and agricultural lands, they work hard, have chores to do. They get up early, do their chores, come to school. Our school day starts at 7:30 and gets over at 4, and that's for everyone. That's our preschoolers all the way up to 12th graders. But they benefit from that long day. We do many different things with them. We run 4 bus routes. Probably have roughly 50% of our students are bused in, through our routes. The high schoolers, most of them, because of activities, find other ways to get here. They drive, or parents drop them off and pick them up. We, like I said, we just have a very strong agricultural community where the kids, are the backbone of our workforce in a lot of ways, where they do a lot of chores and whatnot on the farm.
Okay. Challenges, Jeff. I mean, as superintendent, you've been doing this for a while now. What would you say are the greatest challenges at Wynot?
Well, I would say, if you look at typically out in this part of Nebraska, in rural Nebraska, we're having, definite enrollment issues, where our population density is shrinking. Now, Wynot is an anomaly in that aspect. Over the last 10 years, we have grown from 145, 150 students to almost 200, which is great. But, probably one of our biggest challenges is we're landlocked. We don't have a lot of valuation. So we rely significantly on our patrons to generate dollars for us through, obviously, levies, and our levy is high. We did a bond issue in 5 years ago, and it'll be paid off in 2026, but that was 2.2 million to add 7 classrooms to our building, which, obviously it was needed. We're growing. Another challenge is, state aid formula, how's that's going to affect us. Each year, currently we get a significant amount of dollars in equalization aid. Our option enrollment helps us greatly. Like I said, we're around 50 students. But, because of those challenges, we thrive at that. We have a community that back in 2007, we almost lost our school. And, therefore, I think our patrons and our parents understand, the community understands the necessity of doing what's necessary to give our kids the best education possible. And so those fiscal needs are met because our patrons are willing to pay those higher taxes. Right now, COVID seems to be significant as well.
So bring that around for us. And you did talk about it earlier, but this 4-day school week then, in light of what you have just shared, talk specifically how that helps offset what you've shared.
Well, like we said, our non-certified staff, they work a 4-day week typically, and so that's less expensive. It keeps our costs down there. Our custodial staff, they work. Try to keep everybody employed about 40 hours, obviously, but we don't have as much overtime because of it. Our busing is 1 day less because of that. Our energy is typically 1 day less a week. We're open a few weeks longer, but the school would be open for a lot of that anyway. Even those 3 weeks extra that we're open, there's still things that happen in the summer. We start cleaning, we start doing those things anyway. So those 3 weeks are just additional school. We start school a little earlier in August. We go to school a little bit later, and a little bit later in May. But I think probably our biggest impact is that those dollars that we save through our busing and staffing add up to be $80,000 to $90,000 a year.
Yeah. We've got about a minute remaining. Final question for you. Is this for every school district, Jeff? I mean, what you've explained sounds pretty good. And for people watching, especially those involved in the education realm, what would you say to that question? Is it for everybody?
I would venture to say that if you're having attendance issues, if you're having staffing issues, I think you can find a good hybrid to this that will allow you to meet the needs of your students and your community. Outstate Nebraska, I think it's a significant factor, and I would highly recommend that most schools that are our size look at that, because you're going to find a way to save money and be able to meet the needs of your kids without losing days of school, because kids are able to take care of lots of things on those days off.
Okay, thank you. Minutair about to adopt it. We're going to talk with Rocky Robbins in just a few minutes. But first, Jeff Messersmith with Why Not Public Schools talking with us today about the 4-day school week. I want to thank you so much for joining us and to wish you and everybody there well moving forward.
Well, thank you very much, you too.
You bet. Folks wanting more information on this particular topic, School Superintendents Association, AASA.org. You can also go to Why Not Public Schools, maybe talk to Jeff personally, whynotpublicschools.org. As we said, Minutair Public Schools about to officially implement the 4-day school week. Here to tell us how and why is Rocky Robbins. Rocky currently serves as a secondary principal and activities director. However, He will assume the role of superintendent this fall. Welcome to you, Rocky.
Well, thank you, and good to see you.
Thank you, you as well. Hey, I want to start, so why not public schools? Been doing this a long time. Minutair, a newcomer to the 4-day school week. And I understand that COVID played a role in this. How?
So, COVID kind of threw schools across the nation into a flurry last spring. And there's a lot of unanswered questions that we had about the virus. There's a lot of concern about the potential spread initially. And so most schools in the country had to change course immediately and halted their regular environment and went strictly to an online environment. We did just as those other schools did as well. So then as the summer progressed, school boards and administrators had to muddle their way through the development of a calendar and the delivery model that they would select for this upcoming school year, or the current school year we're in right now. And in so doing, they had to ask, what type of model they would be in. Our district chose to go with the hybrid model. The hybrid model allows half of our students to attend every other day, while the ones who are not in face-to-face attendance Zoom into the classroom. And that has required quite a bit from our teachers to be teaching face-to-face as well as Zoom concurrently. And with that knowledge going into it and that concern, our administrative team elected to basically go to a 4-day week this year to allow our teachers the opportunity on Fridays to implement some professional development and some technology skills magnification, as well as being more intentional with their planning for the upcoming week. And quite honestly, I think that is what has saved the sanity of our teachers this year with regard to that. And so as the year progressed, certainly having that model this year, looking at next year, our students are going to still have those deficits from the learning loss from last year. And we feel like we can be more intentional on our delivery on Monday through Thursday by using our Friday to intentionally plan for the upcoming week. And so that was, and now would be the time to look at it, because we've already answered some of those questions of a 4-day week.
Okay, thank you. Before we get too much further into the interview, for folks at home wondering, where is Minutair? What is this community all about? We're going to put a map up for our viewers. Tell us what's important to know about Minutair.
Okay, you're not the first one to ask me where Minutair is. We are located and we use Scottsbluff as our landmark because most people know where that is. We're about 8 miles east of Scottsbluff, Gering, and we are a very small district. We're tucked in between the Scottsbluff, the Gering, and the Bayard school districts. And our district encompasses not only the small town of Minutair, which has about 800 residents, but also geographically only encompasses about 12 and a half square miles. So it's a pretty small piece of land that we're dealing with here. And probably that's why most people don't know where it is. The community itself serves as a bedroom community to Scottsbluff and Gering. Most of our residents will work in those two towns. And so because of that, and our proximity to those two larger towns, our community doesn't have a lot of the businesses and services that you would find in a town of a similar size that might be located in a little more rural area. As far as the people here are great people. We've got awesome students, and really with a smaller school environment, it creates a family atmosphere that, quite honestly, having taught and been an administrator in other districts that are much larger than this, I wouldn't trade it off for anything. So we we enjoy the family atmosphere, and we enjoy working with our students and our community.
What is your district most known for, Rocky? I mean, what do you hang your hat up on there in Minutair?
Okay, so that it's interesting because as you ponder that, I think you would get different answers from different people. We are a small district. Our socioeconomics are something that people sometimes define us by. Our free and reduced lunch rate is over 90%, and so if you ask just a regular folks around here, they'd probably say it's a small school, or it's a poor school, or a school that has a lot of minority students. And we're no different than other schools in the fact that we hang our hat on the success of our students. Our programs, whether it's athletics or clubs or other things that are in the public eye, that's the front porch of our district. And so we hang our hats on the success of those programs. And so the individual and the collective excellence of our students is what we use. We have some things that we're very proud of, and that's the number of students that earn scholarships that help them to attend college, either debt-free or with very little debt. We're very proud of the staff that we employ here, and particularly this year after going through the COVID year, where they have magnified their skills and learned to lean on each other and learn from each other and collaborate to make a more effective learning environment for our kids.
Rocky, for those folks out there, so many of us are used to that traditional 5-day school week, right? And it may be easy to jump to this whole notion of, oh my goodness, if we take a whole day out of that, how does that impact the students? What would you say to those folks?
So it almost seems counterintuitive to say, well, if we're, if we lost some learning, then why would we go one day less? And the demand that is placed on our staff, not only here in our district, but nationwide, in looking at the learning loss that kids have for the course of this basically full calendar year now, in examining what needs to be done there has to be intentionality, there has to be purpose in what we do. And so, again, I said it seems counterintuitive, but we believe that we could be more effective Monday through Thursday by using Friday to be intentional and coherent and developing that type of instruction that will help our students to grow. I actually have had the opportunity to be a high school principal on a 4-day week shortly after the housing bubble burst back in 2009. And our district had gone to the 4-day week as a cost-saving measure. That is not why we're looking at that here in Minutair. We are looking at it to help our teachers to have the resources and the time and the collaboration to essentially teach our students at a more efficient rate. So that is, I guess, partially the answer to your question. As far as the traditional model, this is the perfect time to look at it for us. We have essentially been in that 4-day week this year, and parents have answered some of those questions, like what do I do with my kid on Friday, and how is my kid going to be taken care of, and what about the meals? And if you look at all the pros and cons of the model there, and even some of the data that's not even clear, I believe we've got a pretty good answer for most of those things.
Okay. We just have a couple of minutes remaining. I know your roles and responsibilities are going to change as you're changing and shifting into this permanently. What do you anticipate to be the biggest challenge for you as superintendent?
Well, what I would say is I'd be curious to know what the answer to this question would have been a year ago, with superintendents not knowing that COVID was coming down the pike at them. I heard a colleague one time say that he had to tell patrons of his district that, please excuse me because, I'm not as experienced in this situation as I should be. This is the first pandemic I've had to administrate through. So that obviously coming out of COVID is something that weighs heavily on my mind. I'm sure it does on most educators throughout the nation, and particularly in the state of Nebraska. But I can tell you that every day is some sort of challenge that educators face, whether it's a teacher or whether it's a principal or whether it's a superintendent. Looking at myself, one of the things about becoming an administrator is you've got to learn to try to be prepared for most situations. And my predecessor, Tim Cody, who's been in our district for 11 years, did an excellent job with that.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, not to interrupt, we're running so short on time. We want to wish you well in this new role, and certainly for surviving COVID. Thank you, and congratulations to your school district for that. Rocky Robbins, Jeff Messersmith talking about the 4-day school week. Let's go for more information. I want to show folks you can go to the School Superintendents Association, aasa.org, or Minnetonka Public Schools. That number 308-783-1733. As we close, a look at scenes from Zorinsky Lake in Omaha, seen through the lens of Sean Anderson, a junior at UNO. Thanks all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at netnebraska.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.
For more than 20 years, only one program has addressed topics that matter to viewers. Only one program delivers the information that Nebraskans need to live the good life. I'm Kathy Wyatt. Join my guests and me as we discuss those issues every week on a program we call Consider This.